Good evening and welcome to another broadcast of Interface. My name is Nikki Bikicha. On tonight's program, South Africans continue to be enraged by the high cost of telecommunications in the country. This time around, the Telecoms Action Group has taken the matter into its own hands. They recently took out a full-page advert in a weekly newspaper criticizing Telkom for the high charges and poor service. It's also singled out government for apathy and attacked the telecoms regulator ICASA as well. So what's to be done? Are the repeated calls for lower telephony costs falling on deaf ears? Well, let's find out from our guest tonight. To discuss this now, I welcome Harold Mathabate. He's the Deputy Director General of Finance, SMMEs and State-Owned Enterprises in the Department of Communications. Mr. Mathabate, thanks for joining us on Interface.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the invite.
I also welcome tonight Rudolph Muller. He's an IT lecturer at the University of Johannesburg. Mr. Muller, thanks for your time on Interface.
Thank you.
My third guest tonight is Paris Mashile. He's the Chair of the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, or ICASA. Mr. Mashile, a pleasure to have you on Interface tonight.
Glad to be with you
Of course, we welcome your input here on Interface. Tell us what you think. Send us an email on interface@sabc.co.za. Just to say that we did invite Telkom to participate in our discussion tonight, but they declined. Before we get into the issues, though, let's take a look at what preceded this and set the scene with our report by producer Nikki Coward.
Complaints about South Africa's high telecoms costs keep resurfacing. In the latest, a group calling itself the Telecoms Action Group has taken up the baton in a strongly worded full-page newspaper advertisement. But who is to blame?
Let's be fair, it's not Telkom's fault that we have this horrendous telecommunication costs in South Africa. Telkom is just doing what they're supposed to do. They've got this opportunity. Effectively, it is a monopoly. In fact, they are a statutory monopoly. So they're doing what is expected from a company like that, and then that is to make maximum or give a maximum return for their shareholders, and they're doing an excellent job. So that's not really their fault. The fault here, the reason why we have high telecommunication costs today in South Africa is simply because the politicians dragged their feet in opening up the market.
But how high are our rates for landline and internet access? NUS Consulting is a worldwide agency, and its local branch has been researching South African telecoms for more than 3 decades. NUS says that for national calls, Telkom's rates continue to be among the highest in 14 major economies surveyed. Despite Telkom cutting some rates, most feel the charges continue to hamper South African organizations in efforts to compete in the world's major markets.
If we had proper competition in South Africa, proper competition in the telecommunications sector, say the past 5 years or so, the South African economy today would have expanded, would have grown at a rate of 0.2, perhaps 0.3% stronger than what we are currently growing. And not only would the economy have been growing faster, we also would have created far more jobs than what we are creating at the moment.
Government's answer was to push through the Telecommunications Act of 2001, which allowed for the end of Telkom's monopoly. And what we have now is Neotel, the second national operator. State-owned enterprises in the form of Transnet and Eskom own 30%. Nexus Connection is the BEE shareholder at 19%. The remaining 51% is owned by Communitel, 2 Consortium, and Tata Group of India.
I'm very happy that we've got a second national operator at least licensed now. They hopefully will be up and running, and hopefully will start competing with Telkom soon. But I'm afraid that's not going to be the answer. They're just too small. Telkom has had this monopoly for far too long now.
But Neotel CEO Anjay Pandey says it takes time to set up networks anywhere in the world. And the same is true for them, even if they have a head start by piggybacking on existing infrastructure of shareholders Eskom and Transnet.
Over and above this base network, Neotel itself is applying both some fiber on the ground as well as some wireless network. And wireless network is a quick deployment mechanism which we will use very substantially to reach out to the man on the street, or the common man, if you will, in that sense and spirit.
But when will ordinary South Africans begin to feel like they have any choice?
Essentially, an alternate network will emerge in South Africa from March, carrying both voice as well as data traffic for the corporate houses. And in the third phase, which is a phase thereafter, is when we will begin to bring in phones for people on the street, as if a common man, if you will, by mid of 2007.
Neotel hopes to capture 15% of the market in the next few years. But is that not just the start of an urgently needed telecoms revolution?